We're a couple days away from the 2025 Black Canyon 100k, and over the last couple of years, this race has become one of the most exciting in the ultra running calendar. The opportunity to race your way into Western States, combined with the runnable fast course, attracts some of the fastest runners in the sport, and the race is situated nice and early in the season, giving plenty of time to recover and rebuild before the big dance for those golden ticket winners. This year it's now a super golden ticket race, meaning there's free tickets on offer in both races. And as usual, the fields are so deep I can't possibly mention everyone, so let me know anyone I've missed in the comments below. Oh, and please hit that subscribe button while you're down there. The men's field is arguably lacking a standout superstar name like Hayden Hawks or Tom Evans, who we've seen compete here in recent years, but if anything, the wide open nature of that race makes it even more compelling. The women's race, on the other hand, is full of big names and is probably the most stacked field we've seen here, so both races look incredibly exciting. Let's jump into it. We'll start with three athletes who are already into Western States: Heather Jackson, Riley Brady and Shea Aquilano. Heather Jackson will be a top 10 returning finisher at Western States, and Riley Brady secured a golden ticket at Javelina. Both will be keen to make a statement here and definitely have the quality to do so. Heather has never nailed this race, fading in the latter stages of both her previous attempts, significantly so last year, and we'll likely see her go out hard again in what is becoming typical Heather Jackson fashion. The question is just how long she can hold on to that lead for. Riley has a couple of top 10 finishes here, but coming off that run at Javelina, the second fastest time in history, finishing 5 minutes quicker than Heather Jackson, they'll surely have big ambitions here. Without the pressure of needing a golden ticket here and knowing they can outpace Heather over 100 miles, will Riley roll the dice and go with that expected early move? Shea is a two-time top 10 finisher here at Black Canyon. At still only 23 years old, she's surely only getting better every year, but given the quality in this women's field, I'd be surprised to see her challenging for a podium. But as she was lucky enough to be pulled in the Western States lottery, she doesn't need to, and maybe the lack of pressure might see her get her best finish yet. Next up, we've got two women who spent much of 2023 and 24 battling injury and are now hoping to remind the world what they can do: Abby Hall and Katie Asmuth. Abby broke her leg back in 2023 and technically made her comeback at UTMB, although it seems like she raced that one more for herself than to be competitive, and now she's got herself back into peak condition, she's ready for a proper competitive comeback. If you've forgotten what she's capable of, Abby has a third and second place at CCC, a second place at Trans Gran Canaria and a win at Transvolcania, along with a host of other wins on a more regional level. She's definitely one for my podium here. Katie is in a similar position, having taken a long break to get surgery on her foot. Prior to that, she was consistently finishing in the top 10 at almost everything she entered, including 3 top 10 finishes at Western States, finishing as high as 4th in 2023. And I think she'll continue that here, however I've put her in 5th, narrowly missing out on a golden ticket. I've grouped Mary Denholm and MK Sullivan together for one reason. They both have marathon PBs of 2:36, which I think, without going through every woman on the start list, makes them the fastest on paper in this field. However, both have a mixed bag of results when moving up in distance. Mary DNF'd the Canyons 100k last year, but went on to win the 100 miles at Leadville, and recently ran the second fastest JFK 50 mile time in history, finishing just 7 minutes back from the 2024 Black Canyons champion Rachel Drake. And MK, who has a ton of impressive 50k and sub-ultra results, DNF'd here last year before bouncing back to finish second at Canyons 100k a couple months later. I wouldn't be surprised if both grab a ticket here, but with such 50-50 results at the 100k distance, I'm only picking one of them, and after that incredible JFK performance, I'm going with Mary to take second place here. Finally, we have my pick for the win, Lin Chen. I spoke about Lin Chen in my 2025 predictions video and named her one of my favourites for Western States, but she does have to qualify first. If you're playing Fantasy Free Trail, she's an easy one to miss, as her ultra sign-up results don't quite line up with her UTMB index, and a ranking of 73% means you have to scroll quite far down to find her. However, when you look at her 2024 results, you'll see why I have her top of my list. She started that year by winning the Hong Kong 100k, then won a 100k race in China, followed by a DNF at Western States due to some horrific blistering. However, she was running in third up until that point, passing through the 100k mark just a minute behind fellow Chinese athlete Fu Zhaozhang, who went on to run the third fastest time in the race's history, so she was on course for something very special. She bounced back from that with a 4th at UTMB, before racing 3 more by UTMB races in Asia, winning both 100k races and finishing second at the 100 mile distance. So yeah, after that incredible 2024 and showing us she's not afraid to go off with the leaders at Western States, I'm picking her for the win here. So to wrap up my women's picks, I'm going with Lin Chen for the win, Mary Denholm and Abby Hall to take the other 2 golden tickets, Heather Jackson to go out hard at the start, fading but holding on for 4th, and Katie Asmuth to narrowly miss out on a ticket, rounding out the top 5. Then if you want some other ladies to keep an eye on, you've got Tara Dower, Lauren Puretz, Erin Clark and Annie Hughes, just to name a few. Moving on to the men's field, as I mentioned in the intro, it kind of lacks the star power of previous years, but if anything that makes it more interesting as it's completely wide open, and I imagine almost everyone will have completely different picks for their podium. I'll start with the man I'm most invested in. If you're a fan of trail running podcasts, you'll be well aware of this guy. Seth Ruling is one of the hosts of the Boulder Boys podcast, and just shout out to that podcast for making me super invested in the results of all of those guys. More runners should be trying to build an audience of some sort, as knowing the personalities behind the runners, it really helps fans invest in following races. You also get a peek behind the curtain into their training, and at least according to his co-host, Seth is in incredible form. Seth's recent results have been patchy at best though, with DNFs last year at Trans Gran Canaria and CCC, along with a 4th place at the Canyons 50k, but prior to 2024 he had seen plenty of success with 2 wins at the JFK 50 miler and a 6th place at CCC, showing that he can hang with the best when he's having a good day. So perhaps swayed by my love of the podcast, I'm picking Seth for a golden ticket. Eli Hemming has been tearing up the sub-ultra and 50k racing scene for a few years now, peaking with an incredible win at OCC last summer, where he defeated some of the world's best shorter distance trail athletes like Remy Bonnet and Francesco Pupi. He also won and set the course record at the 60k here at Black Canyon last year, so although unfamiliar with the distance, he'll at least be familiar with most of the course. And the distance really is the biggest question mark with Eli. If he can bring all of his talent to the 100k distance, then he wins this thing. But it's a pretty big if, and we saw at JFK recently while stepping up to the 50-mile distance that he got his tactics slightly wrong and hit the wall hard in the latter stages. I'm betting on his talent though, and think he would have learned some valuable lessons from that JFK performance, so I'm picking Eli for the win. Rounding out my top 5, I've got 3 guys you'll be familiar with if you followed the race last year. Hans Troyer ran through halfway with Hayden Hawks before fading pretty badly in the latter stages, finishing 10th. Hans won the Bandera 100k last year at just 23 years old, becoming the only man other than Jim Wormsley to run under 8 hours there, albeit on a slightly modified course. He then went back this year and ran the 50k, winning by over half an hour. You've also got 2:14 marathoner Craig Hunt, who came storming through the field at the end last year to narrowly miss out on a golden ticket, finishing 4th. Craig also has a sub 7 hour 100k performance to his name at the Hoka Carbon X2 event, and a couple of impressive wins at the Way Too Cool 50k and the Desert Rats 50k. And then there's last year's surprise package, Jupiter Carrera Casas, who finished 2nd in an incredibly strong field. He then went on to take 17th at States, never really troubling the top 10, so I'm not quite sure if Black Canyon was him having an exceptional day, or if States was just a really off day. I'm guessing the latter though, as he has plenty of wins to his name in races throughout Mexico, so I'm confident he'll have another impressive day here at Black Canyon. A quick wildcard mention to Yu Pei Kwan, who I mentioned briefly in my prediction that a Chinese athlete would win Western States this year. He obviously needs to qualify first, and last year he looked to be moving through the top 10, getting closer to the golden tickets before dropping out completely at the last aid station. I think he'll definitely feature here amongst the lead group at some point, I just can't decide where he'll end up, and by the time I finish editing this video I may have popped him back into my top 5. And just to mention some of the other interesting names in the field to keep an eye on, you've got Joe McConaughey, Mackay Clemens, Ryan Raff, Scott Treyer, Canyon Woodward, Luo Kanhua, and 2 guys that I'm always rooting to have a comeback performance, Tim Tollefson and Jared Hazen. So to wrap up my men's picks, I'm going Eli Hemming for the win, Seth Ruling in 2nd, and I'm re-recording this now to throw in Yu Pei Kwan as my final golden ticket winner, with Craig Hunt and Jupiter rounding out the top 5. That's it for this one. Tune into the live stream on Saturday, it's always a fun race to watch. Let me know your picks in the comments below, and if you're playing Fantasy Free Trail, join the channel mini league via the link in the description. Remember to subscribe, I'll be back soon with more ultra running content. Cheers.